Let's talk about internet out here off-grid in the high desert, and in particular Starlink and what that's been like for the past year. We've been out here for over a year at this point. We've tried a number of different solutions for internet, and I'd say connectivity and being able to get online is a top priority for us, especially for Shannon. She is working a fully remote 9-to-5 job. She's on video calls, conference calls all day long. So without reliable internet, she really can't even do her job. And then for me, I also need internet to be able to obviously upload videos and then download video files, say if I'm trying to edit something for a client, to work on my website as well in the new membership page. I will put a link in the description below to the new membership page. There's a bunch of different benefits that you can get by becoming an Element Life member. But anyways, internet is just something that's extremely important for us. It is essentially the determining factor on whether or not we can make money and earn income while living out here kind of in the middle of nowhere. When we first got out here, we did not have Starlink. We were on the wait list basically immediately, but it took more than, I think, 3 months, maybe 3 or 4 months before we actually got our satellite dish, in the mail. So in the meantime, we had to figure out other solutions for internet out here, and those solutions did work relatively well. The thing that was probably the most successful was picking up a HiBoost cell booster. I'll put a link in the description below, an Amazon link, but that thing has been amazing. Without the cell booster, we basically can't get on the internet at all, can barely even make phone calls out here, but with it, anywhere within a certain radius of the cabin, like we're able to go on our phones, load things on 4G, absolutely no issues. And I guess this is a great time to thank Mint Mobile for partnering with me on this video. Mint Mobile is a cell service provider. They offer extremely affordable cell service and data plans for as low as $15 a month. They actually use America's largest 5G network, and they're able to keep their costs low because they do not have storefronts or retail operations, and then they're able to pass that savings on to you because their overhead is so low. I would definitely recommend checking out Mint Mobile. I've been using them since they partnered with me back in January, and at the moment I actually have 2 different carriers on my phone. Because Mint Mobile offers an eSIM option, you can sign up really easily. It takes only a couple of minutes, and then you can get it set up, and then I actually still have my physical SIM card from my previous carrier, and I'm able to use them both, which is great for when we're traveling, when we're on the road. If we're in a remote rural area like this, it's nice to have access to multiple different networks. I do find that the Mint Mobile network is the fastest one though on this property, so works really well. Connectivity, able to stream videos on my phone, do everything that I would normally do. And like I said, I would definitely recommend checking them out. There's a link in the description below. It's mintmobile.com/vanlife. If you follow that link, you can get access to their plan starting as low as $15 a month. And at the moment, they're running a special for their unlimited plan, which is normally $30 a month. You can get that for $15 a month if you sign up before July 14th. Thank you again, Mint Mobile, for partnering with me on this video. We did realize, though, that relying strictly on 4G and 5G LTE coverage was not going to be a permanent solution for us out here. It was pretty decent overall, but there were definitely moments when it lacked reliability. It was not as fast as Shannon needed in order to get on her video calls and stay connected to her coworkers. So it kind of just got to the point where we knew we needed something else, and eventually our Starlink order did arrive. Like I said, it took quite a few months, but when it got here we were super excited. We got it set up. We were just using the little stand that comes with the dish at the time. We were still like halfway through the construction of the tiny house, so it just didn't make sense for us. We didn't know where we were going to mount it yet, so we just used that stand to start out. But the stand worked pretty well. You do have to be careful, if it's on the ground, you have to make sure that the satellite is not obstructed in any way whatsoever. And at one point I had it too close to the tiny house and it wasn't working as well. I realized that I needed to kind of get it out into the desert. The wire's really long, which is nice, but we did notice though that we had a couple of issues. We have some critters out here at night, some pack rats and such, and they got to the wire at one point and started chewing. Fortunately, they didn't really do any damage. I was able to just kind of tape up the spot that they got to, and it didn't affect the wire at all. But Something to think about, I guess. You keep that wire on the ground and you're out in a desert location like this, you might have some issues with the critters at night. But yeah, I mean, overall, it was fine for for a month or so on the grounds, and then eventually I was able to get it mounted up to the tiny house with a mount that I actually found on Amazon. It was cheap. I'll put a link in the description below to that as well. But worked pretty well. Got it up there, and it hasn't really moved since. We get pretty crazy wind out here in the desert, especially in the fall and in the spring, where you might see 50-mile-an-hour winds. And I was surprised, but we had those conditions in that stand that comes with the Starlink, just on the ground. That thing never blew over once. I thought for sure it was going to be just blown away off into the desert, and didn't really have any issues with it. So I was impressed by the quality of it, but it wasn't really a permanent solution. We've had this set up now with the satellite mounted at the top of the tiny house, which I think, by the way, did improve speeds as well. Getting it up higher like that and completely 100% unobstructed definitely helped. And then we also actually added one of the web boosters there to the cabin, so now the modem in the tiny house can send the signal over to the cabin, and that kind of boosts it and extends the range, so we can use it in the cabin as well, so Shannon can stay connected while she's working in there during the days. So at this point, I just want to break it down to a couple of points and review how the Starlink service has been for the past year. It has, for the most part, been overwhelmingly positive, but there have also been a couple of problems that we've encountered and a couple of issues, frustrations, I guess, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But there are a lot of questions that we had about Starlink before we got it and how it would affect living off-grid, things like power consumption, speed, and reliability. So I guess I just want to break those down point by point. Starting with speed, it is definitely a much faster internet connection speed than what we had previously with the 4G and 5G LTE coverage. Shannon's video calls are much faster now, much smoother, clearer, definitely work better. And then for me, I can upload videos probably twice as fast. And that's kind of how I judge speed. Like I don't typically do speed tests all the time to see, but I know I did do one when we first got it, and it's noticeably faster. It's not the fastest internet in the world or anything like that. It might take me maybe 30 minutes or so to upload a 1 to 2 gigabyte video file. But for what it is, and the fact that we're out here in the middle of nowhere, it's pretty awesome. Moving along to point number 2, and that is reliability. Overall, Starlink has been extremely reliable for us out here in the desert. There have been a couple of times where it's just gone down randomly for a few hours. Didn't really understand why. Maybe it was cloudy weather and the dish could just not communicate with a satellite, or maybe there just wasn't a satellite in the area, or whatever it may be. But that's only happened maybe 2 or 3 times since we've had it. I tried resetting the modem when that happened and just couldn't get connected for a little while. But eventually it came back and it was totally fine. So I think this is probably the most important review point for folks living off-grid or in vans and trying to use Starlink, and that is power consumption. Right now we have around 50 watts being pulled from the inverter. I don't think there is anything else running inside the tiny house, so that is probably about average to what I see for the Starlink and what it pulls, somewhere between 40 and 60 watts. I've heard reports up to 100 watts, and maybe that it has a feature where it tries to stay warm, or maybe if it's moving and the motor is just trying to find a satellite, that it might pull a little more. But every time that I've ever checked it, it's been somewhere in that 30 to 50 watt area pretty consistently. So now, what's the biggest problem that we have encountered with Starlink? I think this problem is something that a lot of folks have dealt with. Basically anybody who has Starlink or who has tried it, especially those who are on the road and living as nomads in vans or RVs. The biggest issue is the price of Starlink, and the fact that the price just seems to kind of just increase randomly and has been going up pretty steadily since we got it, and we've only had it for just over a year. I understand why this is happening. We're up to, I think, $120 a month for the stationary service where we are at our current location. I think that it does vary based on your location, and if you're using it to be in one place or if you're using it as a nomad, there are different variations. And then on top of that, you know, we had to pay for the satellite itself. I think that was like $500, and then you pay for the extender and for the mounts and all these different things. It adds up pretty quick. But like I said, I understand why the price is the way that it is, and I understand why they can continue to raise it. As far as I know, they are the only service that is actively launching rocket ships into outer space and putting satellites into orbit so that we can be connected to the internet while living in the middle of nowhere. So, like, it makes sense. You know, there might be a couple of other satellite internet companies out there. I think there definitely are, but Starlink is leading the pack, and they are providing an excellent service. You know, it is, like I said, substantially faster and more reliable than what we were doing previously. And for Shannon in particular, like, she needs to be connected. She needs that reliability. So basically, whatever the price is, they know that a lot of their customers are going to pay for it because they need it in order to make money themselves, in order to continue on in their careers or whatever they're working on. So it is what it is. I don't know if there will ever be a direct competitor to Starlink, at least not in the immediate future, maybe at some point in the future. But for now, like, it's probably fair to expect that price to continue to go up month after month for the foreseeable future. So that's the biggest issue with Starlink for us, is that it is expensive, and it seems like there is no end in sight to the price increases month after month. But like I said, there are alternatives. You know, we used an alternative before this, and it worked relatively well with just 4G coverage. Like, that's just kind of the price that you pay to be connected, especially when you're living off-grid like this, or if you're living on the road. And I think overwhelmingly positive so far with Starlink after a year. It's nice to just be able to have a modem and just be able to connect to the router and have fast, reliable internet. I think it's going to be especially nice for our guests that are coming out here and staying in the tiny house, that are renting it. By the way, it is available for rent. I'll put a link in the description below to HipCamp. We have it on there if anyone is interested in coming out here to stay. And then on top of that, we also do have a special discount now available to Element Life members. So if you do join the Element Life membership for $7 a month, you can get access to the special discounts to come stay out here at the tiny house as well. But I think that pretty much sums it up for this one, guys. I can't thank you all enough for watching and for following along. I'll talk to you all in the next one. Be sure to check out the new Element Life membership site linked below. Becoming a member grants you access to many benefits, including an interactive map of my favorite free camping and stealth camping spots from across the country, a growing recipe archive for quick, delicious, and easy meals, bonus videos each month, special discounts, and much more. Thanks again for watching.